will kick off the FinCom meeting on April 8th, 2024. Kevin, thank you for taking notes. And I will just, Jillian has much more fancy language than I do to check this, but I will just go around the room and make sure everyone can hear me, that your devices are working properly, and take a roll call of who is in the meeting. So I will start with who I can see. So Kevin. Great. Linda. Khadija. Maybe Khadija. All right, I'll skip to Peter while she gets herself on here. Oh, Nathan just popped on. Peter.
I'm here.
Great.
All right, Peter's here also.
Great, and now I see Nathan. Hey, Nathan.
Hello.
All right, so I think we're good. I think we have everybody. And just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, so make sure not to screen share anything that you don't want to be in the public's eye. And we'll just jump into it. So tonight, it seems, is just mostly on going through the articles that have yet to be voted on and get that done, and then go through our draft comments. And it looks like we have a visitor that might have some information for us as well. On one of the citizens' petitions, I believe. No, I'm wrong. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, tree committee.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to jump into sharing let me go into screen share. Oh no, I can't screen share. Really? It has disabled me from sharing.
Hi, Katie. I found that if I log in on the Zoom rather than click the agenda, you can be the host, and then you can screen share.
So I need to log out and just log in directly from Zoom?
Yes.
So I logged in from Greg Wilson's email.
And you used his passcode and that they supply you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was told if I'm hosting a meeting to log in from Zoom, and then you can host.
All right, I'm gonna try.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave and come back, and we'll take it from there. And if not, I guess we can. Actually, I'm not sure how that'll work, but all right, to be announced.
Katie, you're muted.
It's not letting me share, and I did it from Zoom. It let me enter with the passcode. So does anyone else? I feel it might just be Jillian. Does anyone else, if you go to screen share, give you probably not authorization? Maybe did someone join the meeting before I did?
I got post as prohibited screen sharing, so
Yeah,
I believe it's just Jillian. Do we want to? Are we able to continue with most things without screen sharing, or should we hear from Lee Eiler? Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Hear from Lee Eiler and then possibly adjourn early and reschedule at the earliest possible time when we can get screen sharing working.
Yeah, and I can read the articles as well, as much
Okay.
as, maybe we could get through some of them. So let me, Lee, while you are visiting with us, let me pull up what I would share. So for tree committee, those are articles. Let me get to them. Do you know the numbers off the top of your head?
There's only one article.
Oh yeah, in public shade trees.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, well, yeah, feel free to talk to us on this article.
Well, I'll tell you basically the comments that we submitted to go along with the warrant article for town meeting. We talked about not only has this been a very long process and a process of learning with our tree warden, Justin DeMarco, who is also the DPW director. We spent a lot of time reviewing the material he suggested that is on the website of the state DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and followed their guidelines about the development of a bylaw. We also reviewed bylaws of many other towns. I think at this point there are 110 other cities and towns in Massachusetts that have bylaws. Some of them first approved many years ago, and some of them much more comprehensive than ours will be. Ours is limited particularly to public shade trees, nothing to do with private trees at all. It costs no money to the town. The town, as you know, has no budget for tree planting and very limited funding for tree removal and tree pruning. The funds spent on removal and pruning are almost exclusively hazard mitigation. And I know that there was some question about whether this the efforts of the tree committee and the planting that they've been doing actually creates a financial burden for the town. And the truth is really that the small trees we're planting are the least likely to create hazards in the next couple decades than the mature and at this point dying Norway maples that constitute the bulk of the trees in town. We are very, very keen on having this bylaw passed because it will give us the opportunity to apply for funds from the state, from DCR. They have a program called Urban Forestry, and the requirements of that program for a town to apply include having a bylaw, having a tree warden, which is actually a state mandate, but not every single town has one. And a number of towns have a combination head of DPW and tree warden. Our tree warden is a certified arborist. Another requirement is that the town become a Tree City USA city. I'm sure you've seen signs in other towns, and I hope you've now seen the two signs we have up in Maynard. They are at both ends of Great Road. We are very proud about this. It doesn't just mean that a town has trees in it. It's a rigorous application and renewal process every year. And they require that a certain amount of money be spent by the town on a per capita basis, but that money can be translated from volunteer hours into a federal hourly rate. And so while Maynard is poor in funds, it is rich in its volunteer work. This past year, we spent about 750 hours combined between the Tree Committee and the Tree Corps on the work. And the Tree City USA designation is an acknowledgement of effort and time put into tree work, as well as actual dollars spent by a town. So having a bylaw takes us one step, actually the final step we need to be able to apply for planting funds through DCR.
Great, thank you. And we had already, it looks like voted on this one as a finance committee the previous week, and we had recommended it. So it was just important to hear your, I feel, background. Nathan signed up to work on the comment on this. So this is potential, just additional information to help him draft that comment. Does anyone have any questions for Lee while we have her on here?
So the tree warden you refer to is Justin, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Justin is a certified arborist. He's a man of many talents.
Yes.
So I was a little bit surprised to hear that. And just do you know how many volunteer hours have gone? You know, let's just limit to this year. How many volunteer hours have gone this year into servicing the public trees?
The word servicing, I would say, well, that if you're talking about maintenance, very few. If you're talking about planting and nurturing and watering, and the efforts to fundraise to get those trees to plant, and the designs that had to be developed to be approved by Justin for our planting plans, it's about 750 hours this last
Wow.
year.
That is a lot of work, and we appreciate all that work that went into it.
Thank
Lee,
you.
the goal is then be, if you have this bylaws, to get grant money to cover the costs, correct?
That is one goal.
Yeah.
It also spells out the duties of and wishes for things to happen under the tree warden, and it also spells out the particulars of the tree committee. The committee has existed for the last almost 3.5 years as an ad hoc committee. It is scheduled to go for vote to be a chartered committee, and therefore in midstream, well, actually, when we were working with Bill Coleman and the bylaw committee, we learned that it was going to be put forth as a possible chartered committee. And so therefore we had to redo the section on the tree committee about terms of office and how that all worked. And the fact that there's a statement in there that there may be a student non-voting member of the tree committee is an idea that was there from the beginning, offered, I believe, by our town administrator, Greg Johnson.
Peter, you had a question.
Can I ask you? I'm sorry. Thanks for coming. I understand you said no, or it's only public trees that this affects. Can I just push around the corners of that? So I'm looking at the definition of public shade tree that says all trees within a public way or on the boundaries thereof shall be public shade trees.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean trees in someone's yard along the road are public shade trees?
well, for example, I live on Great Road. The house directly across from me has no sidewalk. There are no sidewalks on the south side of Great Road where I am. I'm up by Erickson's Ice Cream. They once had a line of Norway maples that were probably 4 feet from the edge of the road. So because it's clear when you have a public tree, if it's on the little strip between the road and the sidewalk, those are definitely public trees. Where there's no sidewalk, there's a measure that the state uses in defining what public space is, and it's from the center of the road into the grass at the edge of the property. So with my neighbors across the street, there was a Norway maple that needed to come down. They called the town, and the town came and removed it. They didn't plant it. It was part of the line of Norway maples that once lined the street up there.
And so I'm sorry, I didn't understand that answer. Were
Well-
those public shade trees then?
Yes,
Okay, I can tell you from experience, town meeting has tended to get very hung up on specific definitions of what bylaws cover.
mhm.
And I don't know if you were around for the fence debate. That,
For the what? I'm sorry.
for the fence debate, we tried to do a bylaw on fences, blocking
No.
views on corners and stuff.
No, I'm
it-
sorry.
I think it failed 2 times. So I think it would be good to have very specific examples that town meeting members can understand to say, this is what's covered and this is what's not.
Actually,
And-
you're right on target, because we realized that we need to have a further conversation with Justin to be as clear as we possibly can be about this point. I am not the expert. He is, and I hear you, and I appreciate your comments.
Yeah, I mean, people in general have gotten very concerned about potential, town right to say, oh, you can't cut that tree down, for instance.
Yeah,
And so people are really going to want to know very specifically, what if I have a bush on the corner? What, exactly how big does it have to be before it's covered? I mean, and we will go on for an hour on this, I bet, at town meeting. So,
well,
um,
I hope we will
we
not,
should be
but,
prepared.
um,
Well, no,
May I
I
just-
think there will be
Yeah.
endless questions about exactly what's covered.
okay.
And we
Um,
tend to,
And I will say that sometimes people take down a tree that they believe is theirs when if the property line is reviewed, it turns out to be a public shade tree. It's individual property by individual property where the demarcating line is. And people who take down trees, who assume that they're theirs, they are not going to have anything happen to them by the town. I mean, there is a state law about fines, but I think those have never been instituted in Maynard. So.
And
Can you say,
just to be clear, this bylaw isn't changing the definition of what like a public tree or a private tree is. That's in Mass General Law. The bylaw is just kind of copying those definitions over, right?
Absolutely. And the definitions are from, the specific definitions come from the DCR state definitions, which come from the state law.
Okay.
So when you say has not been instituted in Maynard, are you referring to enforcement by the executive branch, or is there a requirement that for legislative action before you could actually like before the town could hypothetically like act on like finding someone for cutting down a public shade tree?
Well, I'm not an attorney and I haven't reviewed
Mhm.
that section for months now, but I think what I'm remembering is that there is like a minimum fine of something like $200 a day if you cut down a public shade tree. But Justin once told us, and please don't say that I quoted him, because I'm not quoting him, but said that it's more work to go after somebody to pay a fine than it's worth the trouble of doing it. So that is not a practice in Maynard.
Okay. So it sounds like the burden rests upon executive action as opposed to town meeting action.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not town meeting action. It would be DPW.
Yep. Okay. So it's when you say, you know, we haven't acted on it, I think to be precise, what you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm understanding that to mean like DPW chooses not to enforce those state laws.
Okay, yes. Yeah, all right, that's fine.
Okay. Yep, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly what you mean. If you know, if we get another,
It's
I don't
possible.
think this
I'd rather say, the possibility exists to fine people, but that the town's policy and procedure doesn't
yeah.
act on it.
Yeah. So I mean, this is all in the executive branch, which is understandable. I think, any reasonable executive, as you point out, is not going to, go after a $200 fine. As you said, it's probably in all likelihood more trouble than it's worth.
Right.
All right. Any last questions for Lee before we move on to different articles? Nathan, do you think you have enough substance to craft okay.
I think I do. Lee, I had one last question though. I understand that it's defining the role of the tree warden. What powers does the bylaw give the tree warden that are not already provided by Massachusetts general law?
None. It says the tree warden may do this and that, develop a tree planting plan, or may do certain things. But when we first did a draft, we were hoping to require the tree warden to do certain things, and that was not possible. We are not in any way overseeing or regulating anything that the tree warden does. And the amount of time Justin has told us that he is able to spend on tree warden work is a minuscule portion of his job. But he, on the other hand, has been just so helpful and supportive in our efforts to develop a bylaw. He knows that this is something that will help the town and has been behind our efforts to do it.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Last.
All set?
I think we're good. Thank you, Lee, so much for hopping
Okay.
on and giving us information. I know this was an unplanned meeting and we're just trying to squeeze it all in before
I know.
the town meeting. So thank you. We really appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you so much. I will go now.
All right. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, so I know I can't share, but I can go through all the articles that we haven't voted on at least and start there. Feel we can still have discussions on those items. So unless anyone has other feelings or thoughts on that.
I guess I have a procedural question on that.
Sure.
We have copies of the control articles, but do they need to be like read into the meeting in order for us to like officially vote on them?
I don't know that question. Peter?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, so the draft articles have been posted on the board docs website. They're available to the public. We're free to discuss them without, we can just describe them as Control C, Control K. As long as we know what we're talking about, we don't have to do anything else.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Sure.
So I got a couple of draft comments or finance committee comments from Khadijah. I think had 3 of them. Peter had 2 of them, one for free cash, one for another. And I don't think we voted on those ones yet. So it looks like on Article C, which is certified free cash appropriation. Peter wrote comments on that, and I didn't even read them,
As
Peter,
though we
yet.
were recommending it.
It doesn't say yet. I feel we haven't voted on it. Did we vote on it?
Can't answer that.
I don't show. So on Jillian's last, oh, Linda. Maybe not.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yep.
Okay. So we deferred on that, and I was concerned that there was nothing in the senior center, but we looked into it, and they're really not ready to put anything in the free cash for this year. They're working hard, but not ready to do anything. So I think we deferred voting on it until this evening.
Okay. I'll read Peter's comments and then maybe we take a vote on it. So this is again certified free cash appropriation. So passage of this article would appropriate the excess cash flow that was generated through town operations from fiscal year 23 to various town priorities. The Massachusetts Department of Revenue recommends as a best practice that communities try to have a free cash balance of 3 to 5% of their operating budget. Our operating budget for fiscal year 23 was 48 million, blah, blah, blah. And free cash is 1.3 million, which is 2.8% of the budget. The town's financial policies recommend use of free cash for capital items, funding stabilization, and OPEB accounts, and snow and ice defaults. This article proposes spending in line with these policies. We find the deficit in snow and ice and add 185 odd change to stabilization accounts. We spend 105,000 on alumni bleacher rental and replacement design and cover 28,000 in change. He's very specific on it, of a funding deficit related to unreimbursed COVID costs. The balance of 750,000 in change is spent on various capital projects as prioritized by the Capital Planning Committee, including spending 450,000 in change on the Route 27 intersection that will also receive 500,000 of state funding. Of note, there is not funding reserved for a senior center, which has been discussed at a prior town meeting. Town administration believes the plan for a senior center is still being developed and other capital needs outweigh the desire, fund an unspecified project.
To fund. That's, sorry about my typo there, but
Oh, I will change that as I'm in here. Outweigh, desire to fund. I'm gonna desire fund to fund. All right, I added that in. I feel that was a very well written, Peter. Does
well,
anyone
thank
have,
you. Mostly copied from last year, but
but you were specific in the amounts and that's always, and there was noted the senior
So-
center.
I mean, we haven't really voted on it, but assuming we're going to approve it, the last two sentences, which are the of note and the there's not funding reserved for a senior center. I had some question about whether people wanted to put that in or not. I mean, somewhat contrary to what Linda said, I don't know that, I mean, I think we certainly could reserve money for the senior center out of free cash. And the lack of a specific plan doesn't mean we don't know they'll need money for it. So it's not really that it's not ready to be funded, but more, you know, Greg is saying, I don't recommend it at this point. It's because, you know, he needs the money for other stuff, really. And given the discussion at the last meeting, I thought we should call it out and say, you know, this seemed to be the will of town meeting and we're not doing it. But there's no real reason to put that in there except to call that out. So, you know, other people should express an opinion on that.
So,
I think it's oh, go ahead, Kevin.
I did not hear Linda clearly. Maybe someone could help me out if Linda could restate that again, but did someone reach out to the Council on Aging to get their take on this?
Yeah, I believe Linda did.
Okay.
And the issue was that their plan was not, because if you remember from the last time, they were asking it from free cash, and free cash is too uncertain. And so they had to come up with a better ask from the town, or not better, but a more defined, if I believe right. And so they haven't yet. And so the town couldn't allocate funds to them until they did that.
Yeah. And, you know, so I think it was possibly due to the future free cash. So recalling some of the issues that we had with the citizen petition for the senior center, I think the biggest one is that it was allocating from future free cash, of which we did not know what the specific amount of free cash was going to be. So it was from an uncertain funding source. That was concern number one. I think now that we know what the free cash is, hypothetically, you know, were we to have, you know, a citizen, a petition or someone to say, you know, why could we could spend free cash on, oh, well, we have to sign a lease. That's the thing. So I think it's, you know, either coming up with a plan of action we could fund, but signing a lease might be difficult to fund via free cash because that is a multi-year payment thing, unless we put up all the money up front for a single year.
Right. And
So
I think Peter's last like two, right? Your point is just we're acknowledging that. We're acknowledging that we're not funding it, that it's a town concern. So when people come up to talk about it at town meeting, we've acknowledged that it's a concern. I believe that's the point.
Yeah.
But
And
I thought the
maybe,
council,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
go ahead, finish your.
So I think what town meeting voters would like to hear, I know like there's funding challenges, but if we could, if there's a plan, you know, to move forward with this, that we're actually moving on this and we're acting on it, we're not stonewalling it as a town. I think town meeting voters will hear that. So I'd be interested to hear from Council on Aging, whether there's a plan and whether they're moving forward with things.
There's not a plan. We know this. I mean,
Right.
where have you been? They're doing
Yeah.
the study right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've
so
been on
they're
many
doing-
meetings. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
so there we go. So they're doing the study. We have
Right.
a plan. That plan does not involve free cash. Free funding this with free
No, we
cash would
don't
be
have a plan
difficult.
yet.
They're
Well,
doing
we're-
a study to create a
We're
plan.
doing the study, but we have,
Right.
I'm sorry, we have a roadmap.
Right.
We have a roadmap, study, come up with a plan, and then start to execute on that plan. But we're not just like, we as a town are not just dismissing the senior center. We have a plan. It just does not involve free cash. Or we
Right.
have a roadmap. It just does not involve free cash, I should say.
Yeah, Peter, I think it's still good we include it in. I'm a fan of
Yeah.
including that in.
Okay.
In my opinion.
What was your thing, Khadijah?
Well, I was just going to say that there is no plan because they're doing a study. So we can't
Right.
really allocate money unless we know what the allocation is, specifically the amount and what it's for. But I think adding the statement that we're thinking about the senior center is important.
And you were very clear, Peter, in saying the capital needs outweigh the desire to fund an unspecified project. So we
Right.
acknowledge it's not clear yet.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I mean, just to be clear, I'm not sure I support changing any free cash allocation, but we certainly could set aside some of this money even without a specified plan.
Right.
I mean, we could set up some kind of, we could either put it in the general stabilization fund and
Yep.
say we're kind of earmarking it for a senior center. We could, put it in the capital stabilization fund and say we're earmarking it. We could create a new fund. I think it's more that town administration, mostly Greg, are saying without a specific plan, he can't justify not doing these other priorities.
Mhm, mhm.
And, if you're a fan of the senior center, you might disagree with that. But so be it.
So
I would propose we recommend this article, but I think there will be people who feel we should be putting some of this to a senior center.
So I also come up with the financial policy that we have of not using free cash to, it's a guideline, but we generally don't use free cash to fund operating expenses. I think if we are to have as straightforward a discussion on this topic of whether to fund the new senior center, the most straightforward discussion would be to say, like, this is going to come out of our general budget. The funding would come out of our general budget. And I think it's a little bit circuitous to talk about funding the senior center out of free cash. I think it kind of, for town meeting voters, it complicates the funding picture. It obscures really, what the financial picture is that in reality, if we're going to be leasing a senior center, that is going to be an item that's going to come out of the general budget. That's going to be an annual thing that we have to fund, and it's going to come out of the general budget, which means that is going to be competing with all of the other general budget items. It's going to be competing with police. It's going to be competing with schools, or it's going to necessitate an override. And I think that is the ultimate discussion we need to have about the senior center is, okay, town meeting voters, you expressed the desire for a senior center. Here are the trade-offs that you will need to make in order for that to happen.
I don't know that we've gotten to that point yet without the study being done,
Yes.
right? Like I do agree, totally, I 100% agree. But as far as our comment goes this early in the stage, I don't know if we're at that point to make that comment.
Yeah. I just think we should be careful in not in suggesting that like, oh yeah, like free cash is like the way to go with this. I think it's not the way to go. I would say I understand the desire and the concern from our residents to have a senior center. But I just want to make sure that we don't overcomplicate the picture, nor mislead them and mislead town meeting or create a misleading impression. I think I feel like the proper way to do this as I outlined before.
So are you looking?
Actually, I think that's
Oh, go ahead, Peter.
sorry, Katie.
No, you're fine. I think we're
Um,
saying the same thing.
Well, maybe. I think that's a pretty good point, and makes me reconsider putting that note in. Because I mean, it does create the impression that, oh, we think free cash is a good way to do this. And I mean, I agree with Kevin. I don't think it's a good way to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I'll say, I'm sorry, now I can speak, I'm out of the car, but I agree, because there is the UMass study is ongoing, and then the Senior Center Committee now has a subgroup working on financing, and it won't, I don't think it'll come from, it'll be, what we need in an operating budget and how we're going to, what the Senior Center Committee will propose to the town, what they're recommending for a short-term and a long-term solution for the senior center. So I think,
So do you want to just axe that last
I
paragraph
think we
out,
could
Peter?
axe the last one, yeah, that we did note it, but it's
Yeah.
not, I mean, I think we could just actually not
Include it at all.
include it at all, yeah. Because that was really our recommendation at Springtown meeting, was that was really not the appropriate place to fund
Right.
that activity. It's
Right.
consistent with where we didn't recommend it, that citizen petition article in the spring.
Right.
Okay. I'm fine with changing it. I
Yeah.
agree with.
So
everything
I
you
just
guys say.
deleted it
Okay.
out of our drafts that I'll send to Jillian after this meeting. So I know you can't see this, but basically Peter is just reiterating what the passage of this
Yep.
article would do and the percentage amounts that were still within a very low percentage of using our free cash balance and what we're spending it on. Nothing is included about the senior center.
Just to kind of get there, can I make a motion to recommend
Yep.
this article? All right, so I move that the finance committee recommend the Control C, I believe, the free cash
Control
article.
C. Yep.
I second.
I will. Oh, you beat me. All right.
Great. So
So I
Peter
have-
first, Nathan seconded, and I'll take a roll call vote. So Kevin, you're in my top left corner. I'll start with you.
Yes.
All right. Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
and I am a yes for 6-0. Great. So I'm gonna put, let me type in this. So Peter 1, Nathan 2, and it was 6-0. Okay, I'll clean that up, but that's great. And are we good on the draft comment? I feel you were very detailed about it, Peter, so I think it's good.
So we're axing the statement about the senior center,
Yep,
correct?
I deleted that out of there.
Uh,
All right, so A, B, C, we did D, we did E. F is ambulance, G, we're good on. Just going through this list really quick. J was removed. Linda, were there any edits to the sewer K that needed to be made in calculations?
on K,
K is the sewer enterprise fund
Yeah,
budget, and your numbers were just a little different.
yeah, so I'm gonna go back to my Word document. In the, K, let me just look at K here.
Yeah.
Because there's one where my percent change was different. And then one where Justin, they agreed, there were some typos. The original one that we looked at, and he corrected them, but did we get the corrected one?
No, I have not received anything from Justin. I don't know if
And then
Jillian.
there was one where, I'm sorry, there's a number of them, and I just want to find K, my draft comments. There was one where the town is using a different formula for calculating percent change. And what they're doing is what I did was I take the new minus the old divided by the old times 100. What they're doing is in the denominator, they're averaging both costs and then doing the percentage. So to me, so they're taking, like, if the budget went from 100,000 to 150, in the denominator, instead of saying you went from 50, you went up by 50 divided by the old 100, 50% increase. They average the two numbers, 100 and 150, and divided by 125. And so
That seems so odd. That doesn't make
it does
sense.
seem
just
odd, but
wrong.
that's why.
That
But
doesn't make sense.
that's the formula that we explained. So I would stick with our numbers, and
Yeah.
so there were two issues, and I'm sorry, I'm just I got to go back because there was several of those, and I just got to see which one was K.
So Kay, I can read. So you wrote passage of this article would adopt the proposed sewer enterprise fund budget, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Well, the 377,000 is in direct expenses appropriated through the town general fund budget. This amount is reimbursed by the sewer fund, sewer enterprise fund. FinCom supports this increase as 4% in line with industry inflationary drivers. So you had in purple, note, I calculate increase of 4%,
Yeah.
but select board has 3.9%. I use
Yeah.
the numbers of this and this. So theirs were a little off.
Yeah, and they're doing this other calculation where they're averaging the 2 years and dividing by that. So I'd never seen that done before. But
There is a note here that typo updated total revenue to
Yeah.
3,668,000.
yeah, they fixed the typos, and they agreed that those were typos, and it's just that in the select board's narrative, the percent change is a little different than what we have. And I'm not sure. And they gave the formula. Justin gave the formula, and that's why it's different.
So how do we vote on this going forward? Do we, vote to just use our 4% versus the 3.9% as a committee?
So we generally do not vote on comments.
Okay,
We come to consensus on comments and just go forward, and I would
all right. And this one hasn't
recommend we
been
stay
voted
that
on.
way.
Yeah, okay.
But then on the actual number, I would use our number.
Yeah,
I
I
would
would
call
too.
out and say the town's using the wrong number. Well, maybe we don't really want to do that, but I'm fine with using our number and
Yeah.
saying, and, let them explain why their number's wrong. Because it's not that it's it's wrong. So
Right.
it is what
I
it
agree.
is.
So we got an email back, and I should probably respond to the email that we're using a different formula, and this is a more conventional form. In my view, it's a more conventional formula, because their percent changes are always going to be less by averaging the two numbers. Yeah, I'll send an email back.
All right, so we have to vote still as a committee to recommend the sewer enterprise fund budget. So we'll put out Anyone who wants to first that?
The quick question, what's the control?
Yeah,
On
so this
this?
is sewer enterprise fund budget. So it would just, I'll read it to you. Passage of this article would adopt the proposed sewer enterprise fund budget for fiscal year 25, totaling 3,816,000 and change, and appropriate 3,439,000 for direct expenses. While the 377,000 in indirect expenses is appropriated through the town general fund budget, this amount is reimbursed by the sewer enterprise fund. FinCom supports this increase in the sewer enterprise fund budget of 4% in line with industry inflationary drivers.
I move to recommend.
All right, and I will second that.
So could you just read off for the record, who said it and who seconded?
Yeah, so Nathan first, and I, Katie, seconded.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll now take a roll call vote. So this is to recommend control article. Okay. So Kevin.
Yes.
All right, Khadijah.
Yes.
Nathan.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And Linda.
Yes.
I'm a yes. So Kevin, that's 6-0. And I will update that on the notes for K. All right. So we also have to vote on L. This one has not been voted on. So L is similar fashion is the water enterprise fund budget. So Linda wrote, passage of this article would adopt the proposed water enterprise fund budget for fiscal year 25, totaling a big number, almost 3 million, 2,994,000 and other numbers, and appropriate $2,517,000 for direct expenses. While the 476,000 in indirect expenses is appropriated through the town general fund budget, this amount is reimbursed by the Water Enterprise Fund. The Finance Committee supports this increase in the Water Enterprise Fund budget of 11.3%, acknowledging the need to spend on water infrastructure. To support new growth, we must also support the growing water capacity demands. I like that line. She also put here, she's getting different percentages. So the same thing happened on this, this one as it did the last one. I think she got 11 point. Article states 10.68% and we got 11.3%.
Yeah.
So it's like a 0.5% difference, but still same as last one. Any concerns or questions on this before we make a motion? All right, I'm not hearing things, so I will motion to recommend article control. Are they articles or controls?
There are controls when they have letters, articles when they get to be numbers and are actually the warrant.
Thank you. So
So
control.
right now, I think they're letters.
All right. So I'll make a motion to recommend. Anyone wants to second that?
I'll second. I'll
All right.
second, Peter.
So Katie, Kevin first, Peter second. And I will take roll call vote. So Kevin
Yes.
and Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and I am a yes for 6-0. All right, great. So M we voted on. So Nathan, do you feel confident? The next one without a comment is in, which is the public shade trees. Do you feel good about making a comment and emailing that over?
Yes, I sent you an email.
Oh, awesome. So let me pull that up and I will. Here we go. All right, so the passage of this article would define the role of the tree warden and establish an official tree committee, making Maynard eligible for state funding through a Department of Conservation and Recreation grant program for urban forestry. These funds could be used for planting new trees, preserving mature trees, and removing hazardous trees in accordance with the town's tree management plan. The definitions and language in the proposed bylaw closely follow Massachusetts general law and the current practices of the town while respecting a distinction between public trees, which are overseen by the tree warden, and private trees, which remain unaffected. The proposed bylaw represents a unique opportunity to bring in supplemental funding for the town's environmental goals without placing additional demands on the budget or the taxpayers. I like that. I think that's really well written. Any comments on the comment? So I will copy and paste that into our Word spreadsheet that Jillian has going. Nathan, thank you. All right, so we got that. O, which is Kevin, the rooster article. So I know Greg, and it was dispersed to the rest of us. Great. Here's Bill Coleman. Someone sent something with questions and comments. Did you all get a chance to read that?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
any more discussion or thoughts on this one?
I'm not sure I saw that. Where was that, an email or?
It was from Jillian and it was attached with all the documents for tonight's meeting. Maybe a week or so ago, so it might be buried in one of the emails, but it sounds like it's not necessarily an isolated incident. They just want to be able to control noise. And yeah, need to refresh myself on it as well. It sounds like that it's not going to be strictly enforced, that if people happen to have roosters, it will be on a complaint basis. That if a neighbor complains, then they can enforce it. The reason it doesn't go through the bylaws and it goes through this is because it's noise, and noise falls under a different category.
I was surprised that the email that I'm reading, which is from Jillian from
Bill Coleman.
Bill Coleman,
Bill,
it said
yep.
we don't have a noise ordinance. Which
Oh, here it is.
I was surprised. I thought we did have a noise ordinance, but evidently we don't. He says
Yeah,
number
you're right. Maynard does not have a noise
part
by
5.
law.
Yeah, we don't have a noise bylaw. Yeah.
What can be enforced now per the chief of police is disorderly conduct. So late night parties that fall into disturbing the peace. Some people have come to the bylaw committee in the past about that, about power tools or leaf blowers, but because there's, yeah, that is interesting. And then he said just a few more things to note. This isn't enacting a totally new bylaw. Currently, Chapter 18, Section 15 states that it's unlawful to keep any domestic farm animals, defined as goats, sheep, pigs, or cows, on any residential property less than 1 acre in size. All this change does is add the sentence. It is also unlawful to keep roosters on any residential property. So it's just adding that to it.
Mm-hmm.
Katie, I do think you may have slightly miscategorized the bylaw. The sheep, cows, goats, that's on a lot less than a certain acreage in size. The rooster ban, less on 1 acre of size. So if I were to buy a big plot of land in Maynard that was like previously a farm, I mean, I know there's so few of them, but I mean, we still have to think about those people who wish to purchase large plots of land specifically for the point of hosting livestock.
Right.
You know, if I pull out the money that I buy enough land, you know, for that livestock, you know, I could have that livestock. The rooster ban is, I feel, very blanket, and it applies to any residential plot. And as you point out, I know this is anecdotal, but you had neighbors that kept roosters, and you did not have a problem. So My feeling on this is that this is best addressed via a noise ordinance that covers the actual nuisance itself, rather than trying to obliquely adjust it by a blanket ban on all roosters. Because I imagine not all roosters are loud. Just like, this would be the same thing if like we tried to enact a pit bull ban, for example. We're not addressing, this bylaw does not address the nuisance behavior. It addresses a correlation to that. And I fear that were this bylaw to pass, a lot of innocent roosters would be caught up and be forced to be separated from their owners.
Oh, the poor little roosters. I feel number one answers that too. It says also the time of year can come into play. The main reason to ban rooster is the crowing in the morning. In wintertime, that
Yeah.
comes later in the morning and houses are sealed up, so no noise doesn't penetrate and wakes people up. Come spring and summer, that's not necessarily the case because windows are open. So the BOH is not going to go around checking on people who have chickens, who might be roosters, but they may check to see if the chickens are being kept in a sanitary condition for their health and the people around them. But I don't think you need a permit to keep chickens. So how will they know? But
Yeah, I do not, I'm
So-
hesitant to have well-functioning laws be dependent upon executive discretion. I think our job as town meeting is to produce well-founded bylaws, as opposed to creating these blanket prohibitions and then leaving it up to the executive branch to selectively enforce it.
and I see Mike Stevens has popped on here, and
Right,
you might have
so-
a comment to make, Mike.
Yes,
Well,
hello.
Peter, do you
sorry.
want to
wait,
say something
wait.
first? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead,
I
Peter.
want to say something first.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, I'm a member.
No, watch me. Yeah.
So I want to disagree with Kevin. I'm not a victim of the rooster lobby. Sorry. But yeah, I don't have any problem with this. I don't see this as some vast overreach. I think there's very little place in a town like Maynard to say, oh, we really are going to have roosters around. And so I'm fine with this bylaw.
Yeah, there's probably not many roosters, but Mike, did you have anything you wanted to
I
add?
just want to make sure, Kevin, that there is a difference between roosters and hens, and that there are very few roosters, as we understand it, around town, and this does not affect people who can maintain. I think it's up to 6 hens at a time, laying hens, and they don't need a rooster, surprisingly, to lay the eggs. So I just wanted to make sure that point was understood.
The women can do it all. And I do feel just from personal experience, some people don't know they have roosters, and sometimes it's a surprise that, oops, this one was a rooster, and then they just have to find a farm for it. But
And I'd like to say it only applies to residential land and. Bill
Correct, not
Coleman's,
farmland.
It is not farmland, right? So if you were zoned farming, then of any size, it wouldn't apply.
right,
I'm not sure if that happens in Maynard, but it's only residential.
Oh, there's also right to farm too. So you do have the right to keep livestock on residential plots of land. It's actually kind of a development, especially in this area, to raise your own chickens, raise your own livestock.
But I don't think
But-
we're a right to farms.
and Maynard
really?
isn't. I don't think Maynard
We're
is
not a
right.
right.
to
We're
farm.
not a. We're not a right to farm community, but we do have the prohibition. We do have the ability to, within our law, to raise livestock on residential plots. But again, I think this bylaw is oblique. It's blanket. It's non-specific and addresses a correlation to nuisance as opposed to the actual nuisance itself. I think the proper way to do this would be to have a noise ordinance in our bylaws. And thus that would cover roosters, that would cover any other situation when we get ourselves in, instead of trying to address it piecemeal.
Well, even if you're not unanimous, do we want to take a vote on this one?
Sure, I'll move to not recommend, since I'm the most vocal on it.
I'll second that.
Oh, all right, I'll take a roll call vote to not
Sorry.
recommend.
But
Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Nathan, you're seconding to not recommend.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so roll call vote, Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
No.
Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
No.
Peter,
No.
and I'm a no for, so would this change our recommend
Okay.
because it didn't pass?
No. Can I make a motion that we recommend this article? Let's
Uh.
just do it that way. So I'm
I'll
making a motion
second.
that we recommend this article.
Well, let me just get the vote total. So that was two for and 4 against, correct?
Correct.
All right. Sorry for the interruption.
No, you're good. So now Peter is motioning to recommend Control O. And Khadijah seconded.
Yes.
So this is Peter first, Khadijah second, and I'll take a roll call vote. So Kevin,
No.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
No.
Linda,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I'm a yes for 4-2. So I will update on this sheet as well. Kevin, you are the one, do you still feel comfortable in making comments on this one?
I could. I mean, if you guys feel, I think I could. I know my point of view. I think maybe it would be helpful to hear someone from the other viewpoint. I mean, I could play devil's advocate, but I'd be interested to. I think I would need to hear from the people who voted for it, their reasons for voting for it, and the reasons we're giving the recommendation.
Roosters are noisy and they're a nuisance in the morning.
And I would say the article's limited to residential, not agricultural. Zoned areas.
And it just takes, I mean, this isn't right in there, but it just takes a complaint. So if you have a rooster that doesn't cause complaints, it doesn't cause complaints. But if you have a rooster who wakes people up in the morning, I get that.
And so I'm going to say, roosters are a noisy and a nuisance, and the article is limited to residential zoning only. And the minority dissent, I will just say the minority felt that this law was a blanket prohibition that would prohibit non-nuisance roosters, or that would blanket prohibition that would sweep up in its ban innocent roosters, and addresses a correlation to the nuisance and not the actual nuisance itself.
We can get PETA involved here.
Sounds good to me.
Nathan,
Fine.
Yeah,
did
that
you-
sounds good,
do you-
Kevin.
Do you agree
Yeah.
with that categorization of the minority opinion?
I would add in that would be better addressed with a noise ordinance rather than a
Yeah.
rather than the bylaw.
Yeah, I think that's good to know. All right, and if you email me that, Kevin, I will add that to the draft, so
Alright.
no pressure. I will move on to see what time is it? 8:11. We're still good. All right, there's no comments. I don't know that this got assigned to someone. This is Control R, Establishment of Assabet Valley Regional Vocational Technical School Stabilization Fund. So we voted to recommend it. Was anyone given this to make comments on? No. There's a few of these. So does someone want to assign themselves to make comments on this one? So again, this is Establishment of the Assabet Valley Regional Vocational Technical School Stabilization Fund. I don't know if this,
I can write the comments on that one.
this is Linda.
Yep,
Okay.
Linda, yep.
So our,
Sorry, we did vote to recommend this already?
we did. We voted 7-0. Linda first, Kevin seconded, and it was 7-0. Do you want me to read, should I read the comment? The Assabet
Nope.
comment? No, okay. All right, so Linda, I will put your name next to that one. And then also the Maynard Golf Course receipts transfer. We recommended, Nathan was a no on this one, but the rest of us recommended it. And this was to transfer the sum from the Maynard Golf Course receipts reserved for appropriation to pay for capital improvements to the golf course. And this was a conversation that we thought, like, is it really going to make a difference? But it was money that they had earned that we had voted on appropriating. No one is making the comment on this yet, though, so this is Control S. Does anyone
I
want?
can do that one if nobody else wants to.
All right, Peter, it's all you. So
Okay.
that's Control S. We're good for Control T. We're good for Control U. We're good V. We're good W. Oh, we need to vote on X. So X is to amend the zoning bylaw, section 3.12, 7.2, and 11, firearms business and shooting ranges. So the finance committee comment so far is that currently there are no town bylaw zonings for firearm businesses and shooting ranges. If this article is passed, it will amend town bylaws by adding firearm businesses and shooting ranges by special permit process from the planning board. This will not supersede federal or state laws or regulations, and I think that was important to add. This bylaw would allow the town planning board to have oversight of new proposed businesses and gives guidance on how new business owners can get established in town. Khadijah, I think you did this one.
What was that?
Did you write this one?
Firearms? No.
Yeah.
I think that was Jill.
Oh, maybe it was. Okay. So we have to vote on this one. It has not yet been voted on. Any comments or discussion that we want to have on this?
Yeah, I'm just want to like revisit our conversation about this with Chris from the planning board. Is that right?
Yeah.
That what I remember him telling us is that right now, if a firearms business wanted to open up in Maynard, it would just be slotted through like retail, and there's like no other like regulations on it. So this would be putting like additional checks and like safety measures in place if somebody wanted to open that up. He also said there's not currently a firearms business that wants like that's like negotiating with town or the town or anything. But it was just like kind of like a gap in like our bylaws. Is that everybody else's understanding as well?
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
Yes, I agree.
So I would be in favor of recommending this amended zoning bylaw, because I think it gives us extra protection and measures in place. So I will first.
What's the control number on this?
This is Control X.
I will second.
Night, night.
So that's me,
Nathan.
I first, Kevin, and Nathan seconded. And I'll do a
Okay.
roll call vote. So Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes,
and Peter.
Yes, yes. Sorry.
And I am a yes for 6-0, Kevin. And so the next one is also a zoning bylaw that I believe then Jill made a comment on. So this is and we have to vote on this, to amend zoning bylaw section 9. This is the Powder Mill Overlay District in MBTA communities. Oh, Khadijah, this was you. So Khadijah wrote, this article is in compliance with the Maynard Master Plan, the Powder Mill Road Corridor, and allows Maynard to be in compliance with the MBTA Communities Act, MGL, and she cites it. It provides adequate control to allow Maynard to grow in a thoughtful manner, financially beneficial to the town. Thank you for that, Khadijah. Any discussion on this one? So I will make a motion to recommend.
This is control Y?
Correct.
Control F, right.
I second that motion.
I'll-
Sorry.
Okay.
Who wants to second it? Nathan, you won.
Nathan
sec-
did.
All right. Roll call vote, Kevin
Yes.
and Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
yes,
and Peter.
Yes.
And I'm a yes for 6-0. That is on Y. Oh, we got a few more to vote on. All right. So next one is Z, as in zebra. And Khadijah wrote this one as it's about Summer Street. So this is about the disposition of 6163 Summer Street. And she wrote, this article allows the select board to sell property at 6163 Summer Street, formerly the Fowler School, on the terms and condition it deems most advantageous to the town. The former school had outlived its educational purpose more than 20 years ago. It needs major rehabilitation for any municipal purposes, and to continue to allow it to remain a town property is a negative position for the town. The first step is to sell the town. The first step to sell the property is to declare it an obsolete asset while controlling future development through an RFP process. The RFP process will allow the town to develop it within the Maynard Master Plan. The Finance Committee recommends the sale of this property, which could be a financial benefit to the town. Also very well worded.
Sounds great.
Any thoughts on that?
I don't know if you want to add anything about it being a historic property, but I didn't want to go on too far, so.
I don't and would actually prefer that it not get mentioned.
Hmm.
But I just think it'll confuse the issue. I'll move that we recommend this article then.
All right, so Kevin, this is Control Z.
Okay. Peter
So-
moved.
Peter first. I will second. And roll call vote, Kevin
Yes.
and Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes.
So that is and I am a yes for 6-0. All right, great. I don't think we have anyone oh, maybe we do. So Nathan, you're assigned to this one. This is
Yeah,
the cemetery one.
mhm.
So
I
yeah.
emailed. So I wasn't really sure what these two control articles were about. I don't know if anybody on the finance committee can speak to them. I emailed Greg about it because I didn't see any similar transfers in previous years. So I wasn't sure if this is a new thing at the cemetery or if this is a regular transfer, but it happens, periodically rather than every year. Does anybody know what the purpose of these transfers is?
I feel they're on every year. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel the sales and
Yeah.
there's a trust account and they just have to be shifted to the maintenance account.
I looked at the town warrants for for the town meeting since like 2020, and I didn't find anything that was exactly the same. There were cemetery transfers, but this is like a larger sum, and it seems like it's emptying the sale of graves account and putting it into two different accounts, one of which is for like immediate maintenance, and one is some sort of like trust fund or trust for like the future
Right.
maintenance. That just I couldn't find anything exactly the same in previous years.
Yeah. I would recommend we not act on this, and maybe Katie or Jillian could echo Nathan's email.
Yep.
And I would be blunt and say, wait, why is this coming up now? What's different from prior years? I can't believe I think the sponsor comments are very inadequate. That, it puts it there as though this is just a routine thing we always have done. And
Yeah.
Nathan's right, we haven't done this before. So what's new, what's different? Why are we doing it now? And give a real explanation.
And would that be to the DPW?
I would put it to Greg and let him
Okay.
assign
Yep.
it.
Okay.
Greg did email me back and said that he or Justin would, respond, but I haven't seen something since then.
Okay.
And I just emailed him last night, but yeah.
Oh, but anyway, yeah, we can recommend, we can do our recommendation at town meeting.
Yeah.
For that, I mean, this is a new thing, and
All right. So I will vote. Well, it's not a vote, but that will curb for now AA, AB, and AC. Well, AB and
wait, what's he
no,
saying?
sorry. AA and AB. AC is different.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So AA and AB. All right. So AC, Linda, this was you, and you may have, I don't know if I got anything. This was water enterprise retained earnings transfer for capital improvements.
So I did email the comments, but just to Jillian. I didn't email them to you, Katie. So I can,
Do you want to email them to me and then I'll read them and we could take a vote?
Yep. Let me just.
There are so many controls this year. All right. Let me go to my email.
I'm gonna Maynard. Okay, I gotta email this to you, Katie. New mail. Katie. Attach files. Oops.
I don't know if it's from looking at a screen or the eclipse, but I'm like, are my eyes damaged? Just feel a little buggy.
All right, I just emailed.
All right, thank you. I will refresh. Okay, here we go. Thank you. That came through fast. So just download. So Linda wrote that this article would transfer 180,000 of water retained earnings for the DPW to use for capital equipment procurement. These funds would allow for the purchase of a new truck to replace a 15-year-old truck. This will allow the Department of Public Waste to properly service the town's water operations and repairs. Maintaining an aging fleet of vehicles can add additional cost to the town through vehicle maintenance repairs. Finance Committee supports this transfer to strengthen the DPW's fleet, as rates will not be affected. Yeah. Thank you for that, Linda.
Sorry, just double checking, and maybe I misheard it, but I thought you said Department of Public Waste.
Yeah, I think that should be water.
You did. So it's waster.
It's waster, right?
Or-
It should be water.
Yeah, I'll change that right now.
Thank you.
Good catch. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was waste or water. So yeah, okay.
And I said waster, so it's not even a word.
So as amended is water. Yeah. So we have to vote on this one. I feel still, let me go back to my controls. Yes, we have to vote on this one. So I will make a motion to recommend.
I'll second it.
So Kevin, I first, Peter seconded.
This is control. What's the control?
AC.
Mhm.
And you said Peter was first?
I was first, Peter second.
All right, Katie first, Peter second.
And I'll take a roll call vote, starting with you, Kevin,
Yes.
and Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I am a yes for 6-0. All right, great. And I will copy and paste those comments. Thank you, Linda. All right, we need to vote on AE, which is draft control, AE, acceptance of private roads. So I'm not sure who made this comment. Maybe it was Jill. At the special town meeting, October 10th, 2023, voters approved this article that allowed for the taking of these roadways, but a layout hearing was not yet completed at that time. To accept these roads as public roadways after this layout hearing, they once again are appearing on the ATM warrant. This article proposes to acquire Fletcher Street, Heights Terrace, and Allen Drive as public ways. Unaccepted roads are surveyed yearly for potential town acceptance following the pavement management plan by the DPW. Unaccepted roads are not allowed to be improved as stated in town bylaws. These roads are used by residents throughout the town and by public safety service. So I feel I cannot vote on this one. Right? Or can I?
I'll move that we recommend this article then.
All right, so the Kevin, this is AE. Is an elephant.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. AE, Peter first, Khadijah second.
And I'll take a roll call vote. Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I have to abstain, I imagine, right? I'll abstain.
Yeah.
So 5-1 abstain. All right, so great. Oh, our cursor is almost to the bottom. All right, so then we have AF, which we did. All right, so there was 2 that I had to write a comment on. We'll see how my comment is. So this is, and we have to vote on this. This is AG. G is in Guy. And this is emergency notification, draft control. So I said the passage of this article would allow the town to negotiate the best rates possible regarding an emergency notification contract, not being limited to a shorter contract term. This would be in the town's best financial interest. So this one, if they're trying to negotiate a contract more than 3 years, they have to get town approval. So it's anywhere from 3 to 10 years that this allows them to negotiate a contract, which could potentially give them better rates.
Sounds like more stability in financing too, right?
I will say I reached out to someone I know because she feels that that potentially some rates were locked in too high too long. So
Oh,
that
okay,
at the
yeah,
same
yeah.
time, if rates like for the Verizon contract or that not getting in a 5-year or 10-year contract would have been in our better interest. So I guess it depends what it's regarding. But potentially they can get better rates the longer the term of the contract, it sounds like as well. And so this first one is just regarding emergency notification, and I'm not entirely sure what that involves, but maybe for the town to get power's out, or I'm not sure examples of that, but it didn't sound too complicated. Any questions or concerns on this one? So again, it just allows the town to negotiate contracts more than 3 years.
I move to recommend Control AG.
Nathan.
I'll second.
first.
Oh.
Yeah, no, thank you, Linda. Linda second. Kevin, you got those?
AG. Yep. Nathan, who was the second?
Linda.
Nathan first, Linda second.
All right.
My square shifted. So Khadijah, roll call vote, yes? Oh, you're muted.
Yes.
Okay. Nathan
Yes.
and Linda,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes for 6-0. The next one I almost copy pasted. It's the same thing, but for information technology. So IT. The passage of this article would allow the town to negotiate the best rates possible regarding an informational technology contract, not being limited to a shorter contract term than 3 years. This would be in the town's best financial interest. So we have to vote on this one. I will make a motion to recommend AH.
I
I'll
second.
Ooh, tie.
You do it.
Khadijah, you won.
Yeah, you do it.
Okay.
No, Khadijah, you won. Yep. All right. Roll call vote. Khadijah
Yes.
and Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes.
All right. So that
Who was the mover? Who was the second? On A8?
I was first and Khadijah was second. And that was 6-0.
Yep.
That's it. So I think we voted on all of them.
Well, there's AA and AB.
Yes, so those we're gonna curb. So those are the cemetery sales. So at our next meeting, I know that's gonna be too close to potentially print in the materials. We can just have comments ready to go at town meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll meet prior to that, so we can tackle those at that meeting. And maybe I'll make a note that we want to talk to Justin, right? Or I can email him that we have questions on those.
Yeah. I'm interested that Greg referred it to Justin.
Oh, you're right, Greg.
Um,
Yep, Greg.
And I kind of, let's see what they say. I mean, we'll have a couple of meetings before actual town meeting.
Right.
But just where it's in regard to the finance and moving money between funds.
Right.
I almost think it's probably more Greg than Justin, but maybe I'm wrong.
Right. So I'll email Greg and see what he says, and we can take it from there. Any others that you would like more information on? I think we voted on all of them and we have comments on all of them except those particular ones. Looking
For
through.
the
what-
new comments,
Great.
we can just email them to Katie, you and Jillian. Katie, is that the best way? The draft comments?
Yeah, that's what people have been doing, and
Okay.
whoever's on it just has been copying and pasting it into the
Okay.
Word doc that we have going on.
Okay.
I mean, Jillian has been managing that. I just added to it this last
Yeah.
round. Great, that was good. Good job, guys. I think that was all the purpose of tonight, was to vote on the ones we haven't voted on. So I made notes on them and I'll
Yep.
update all of them. And then those are the only two we don't have comments on, and we can wait till our next meeting for that. I'll email Greg and see if he defers us to Justin again, but at least get some comments from him on it. I'll state specifics that, you know, what's new, why now, the amount seemed much different than in previous years. What is the reason for that?
Well, I think it's that it didn't exist in previous years.
Ah,
Or at
There-
least not
there-
that we can recollect or find.
So last year there was a $50,000 transfer, which is like kind of specific to one of the two funds. And the year before that and the year before that, I didn't see any article about it. And this year there's two different articles, and it's emptying the account, splitting it 50% into the one that got $50,000 last year, and the other 50% is going into like another account for like immediate spending, I think. Yeah,
So
so
it's maybe like they're trying to get rid of a fund potentially.
yeah, I don't know if it's just like a restructuring thing or what,
Yeah.
but because it wasn't obvious to me after like looking at the last few town meetings, I think we should look into it a little bit further.
What was the total dollar amount, Nathan?
Let me see. It
Mhm.
is
120,000 or so.
Oh, yeah, that's much more than the previous year.
yeah.
Split 60 into each article.
Okay. I know we're meeting, so our next meeting is, I need to look that up. I don't know. I was not
April
prepared. for that.
22nd.
Right, because we're on April break
April
next.
22nd.
Yep, okay. So April 22nd at 7. Is there anyone that, other than asking Greg about that, you know, those questions that we had, anyone that we wanted to invite to that meeting that I should let Jillian know about? Or do we just want to tighten up everything that we have as far as comments and whatnot? I believe there was, now that I'm thinking about it, there was a question to Natasha about the school. Let me find that. Yeah, so to meet services in fiscal year 25, the school department plans to draw on various reserve and revolving funds. We were concerned about them drawing down their revolving funds. And Jill was checking with Natasha on how to properly describe these funding sources, but I don't know that she has to talk to us regarding that.
Katie, we have to have a hearing before annual town meeting is,
Oh, we have one booked.
we
Okay.
have one booked. Yeah, I'm trying to think, is that our next meeting? Or because the annual town meeting is the 13th of May. And so
Is it
when
really?
is, that's what I have on my calendar, but
I have it as the 20th of May and the 13th.
20th
for
of
public
May.
hearing.
okay, so the 13th is our public hearing. Okay, Finance Committee.
Yeah.
Public hearing. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Public hearing, and then May 20th is the town meeting.
So just I mean, our typical practice would be, we would probably meet April 22nd and then meet May 6th as regular meetings. We would meet May 13th to do the public hearing and probably nothing else. And then, you know, really May 20th counts as a meeting because it's town meeting,
Right.
just so people know the schedule. Now, we
Mhm.
could opt to skip May 6th, you know, choose the next meeting.
If we finish everything
But,
on
well,
this
we can decide
22nd.
then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So April 22nd, at 7 p.m., have it on your calendars.
Okay.
And I'll give all these updates to Jill and let her see what, you know, if she wants anyone to come to our next meeting, but we might just finish everything up. And that will take enough time. Are there any announcements? I guess announcements isn't the right word, but updates from any liaisons that you felt important to communicate tonight? I don't think there was any meetings that I knew of. All right, so no comment. Should we wrap it up? Call it a night? All right, so I will make
Yes.
a motion that we adjourn. So it is 8:43, Kevin. And I will make a
Right.
motion that we adjourn.
8:43, motion to 8:43, motion to adjourn. I'll second that motion.
All right, and I'll take a roll call vote. Katisha
Yes.
and Nathan,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes.
Right, we are 6-0. Awesome. I think we got a good amount done for not having screen sharing. So thank you guys for letting me read those, and I think we're still productive. And
Okay.
have a great April break, and we'll see you April 22nd.